I never used to be afraid of my phone. For me, it was a lifeline, a way to talk to friends, to distract myself with music, to feel less alone when the nights got too quiet. But one call changed everything. One voice on the other end turned my world into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. It started on a Thursday evening. I had just finished my homework and was about to go to bed when my phone rang. The screen said, "Unknown caller." Normally, I would have ignored it, but for some reason, maybe curiosity or boredom, I picked up. "Hello?" At first, there was silence. Then I heard breathing. Slow, steady, deliberate. My skin prickled. I was about to hang up when a man's voice finally spoke. "I like the way you breathe when you're scared," he whispered. I froze. My thumb hovered over the red button, but I couldn't move. It felt like the voice had reached into my chest and grabbed hold of my lungs. "Who is this?" I demanded, trying to sound braver than I felt. The voice chuckled, low and chilling. "You don't know me yet, but I know you." I hung up, my hands shaking. I told myself it was just some creep who had dialed the wrong number. It wasn't the first time strangers had called, but something about the way he said those words made me feel like he was in the room with me, watching. That night, I left my bedroom light on. The next day, I tried to forget it. I went to school, talked to my friends, pretended everything was fine. But when I got home, the phone rang again. Unknown caller. I didn't want to answer. Every cell in my body screamed not to, but I did. "Emily," the voice said this time. My name. My real name. My mouth went dry. "Who are you?" "Someone who cares. Someone who wants to keep you safe. But you have to listen." I slammed the phone down and blocked the number. My heart was racing so hard it hurt. But that night, my phone rang again. Same voice, same number. Blocked or not, he found a way. And that's when I realized he wasn't just calling me. He was following me. The next calls came at stranger times. Midday while I was in the cafeteria. At 3:07 a.m. when the neighborhood was a held breath. During chemistry, just as the beaker began to boil. Always unknown caller. Always the same voice. Measured. Intimate. Like he believed we were already in a conversation that I just kept forgetting we'd started. "I saw you choose the blue sweater," he murmured once. "Good choice. The red one would have made you look guilty." I stopped wearing red. When I told my best friend Tasha, she did the thing you do when the world's logic offends you. She tried to fix it with more logic. "It's a spoofed number," she said, shoving fries into her mouth. "Block unknown calls. Change your number. Two-step everything." I did all of it. I changed my number so hard it felt like changing my name. It didn't matter. He still found me. Through private numbers, through my mom's phone, once through the landline we never used. The worst was the call that rang from my own number. I answered because I had to know. "See?" he whispered, pleased with himself. "We're the same now." I started sleeping with my phone in the freezer because an article said the cold could hurt batteries, and I wanted to hurt something back. It didn't help. I learned you cannot freeze a voice. Mom went from concerned to furious in the span of a week. She stalked the house unplugging devices like she could yank danger out of the wall. "We're going to the police," she said finally, jaw set. She'd been working double shifts at the diner since Dad left 2 years ago. The lines at the corners of her mouth had learned to stay. The officer at the desk was kind in the way that sends you home with a brochure. "Document everything," he said. "Answer as little as possible. Change your routines." He gave me a case number, which felt like a new kind of name. Change your routines meant walking a different way home and pretending not to care when Tasha said, "But the other way has the good mural." Change your routines meant stop jogs, stop earphones, stop being alone with your thoughts in the way that makes your heart a steady metronome instead of a nervous bird. On a Sunday, the voice called during church. My mom's eyes shot to me like I'd farted in a library. I let it go to voicemail. After the service, I listened outside under a maple that had decided to be dramatic about autumn. "You looked beautiful," he said. "You don't have to look guilty, Em." He had never been in that building. I told myself that like a spell. He had never been in that building. That night, a package arrived without a return address. Inside, a cheap plastic phone charm shaped like a silver bell and a note written in black letters. "For luck, answer when it rings." Mom called the police. The officer came, took the box, and looked sorry like it was a hobby. "We'll dust for prints," he said. "Probably nothing. Most guys like this are careful." I went upstairs to pretend to sleep, and my phone rang. I answered without deciding to. "Did you like the bell?" he asked. "I'm done," I said, and my voice surprised me with how flat it sounded. No quaver, no please, just done. "If you call again, I'll record you. I'll post you. I'll make you famous." He chuckled. "I already am. To you." It wasn't one thing that broke me. It was the 1,000 small permissions fear demands. I stopped staying after class. I started checking ID badges of delivery drivers and then still not opening the door. I stopped letting the kettle whistle on the stove because the sound made my skin crawl. I slept on the floor for a week so the window wouldn't be level with my face. Then came the night he told me to run. I was in the kitchen, pouring water, when the phone vibrated on the counter. Unknown caller. I told myself not to answer. Then I answered. "Go outside," he said. Not a whisper, a command. "No. Now." Mom was at the diner. The house felt like a held note. Something in his tone, an edge I hadn't heard before, cut through all my practiced no's. I cracked the back door and stepped onto the stoop. The air smelled like rain's rehearsal. My phone to my ear, I scanned the yard. Nothing. The world was its own quiet. "Run," he said. "Run now, Emily." "Why?" "Because a car is about to stop at your corner, and a man who is not me is going to ask you if you need help with your math homework. If you say yes, you will not make it back inside." The street at the end of the block glowed. Headlights swept, then cut. I heard a door open. The voice said, "Left, now," and my body obeyed before my brain did. I sprinted along the side of the house and slid behind the hedge. A shape moved by the gate. Tall, patient, the posture of a person who knows how to wait. "Time," the voice murmured. 30 seconds. I stayed still. The shape at the gate stayed, then shifted, then left, then came back. After a minute, that became 3. A car door shut, the engine coughed, and the sound moved away. I stayed crouched until my phone said 5 minutes had passed. When I stood, my legs forgot for a second how to do it. I went inside, locked the door, and slid to the floor. I didn't know what terrified me more, that the voice might have saved me, or that it was orchestrating a play in which I was the only actor who didn't know the script. He called back 10 minutes later. "See," he said, "you're safe when you listen." I hung up so hard the screen flashed and a crack spidered across the corner. My hands shook so badly I almost dialed 911 instead of Mom. When she came home, she wanted to call the police again. I said yes because I had run out of no. This time, a detective came. Detective Reyes. Close-cropped hair, suit that fit like he forgot about it, and a face that had practiced neutral so long it had become his resting place. "Do you think he's protecting her?" Mom asked Reyes in a voice full of barbed wire. "Like some kind of guardian devil?" Reyes tilted his head. "He thinks he wants to be necessary," he said. "And people who want to be necessary are dangerous. May I look around?" He looked without touching much, at the windows, at the router, at the spot on the doorframe where Dad had once measured my height in pencil marks that bled into the wood grain. He noticed the church bulletin with my name on it and the box the charm had come in, and the crack in my phone I'd kept stroking with my thumb like a worry stone. "We can set up a controlled answer," Reyes said. "You pick up with me here. We record, we trace. He'll likely be masking through apps and call bridges, but we can still build patterns, time, tower clusters, language ticks." "Will that help?" I asked. "Patterns always help," he said. "They don't always save." We did it the next night. Reyes sat at the end of the couch like a polite cat, his phone connected to a small black device that looked like a coaster. When my phone rang, the whole room held its breath. "Hello?" The voice exhaled in my ear like steam from a kettle. "You brought company." I glanced at Reyes. He gave a tiny nod. "Keep him talking." "Who are you?" I asked. "A neighbor," he said. "Which house?" "You'll know when I stop speaking." "Why me?" "You answered," he said simply, "and then you kept answering." "Why warn me about the man at the corner?" He paused. I imagined him drawing a picture in the air, something only he could see. "Because there's more than one of us," he said, "and not all of us want the same things." Reyes wrote "more than one" on his notepad and circled it. He slid the pad my way, and beneath it he'd written, "Ask for proof." "Show me something only a neighbor would know," I said. He laughed softly. "You dropped a spoon behind the stove and you can't reach it. You'll think of it at 2 a.m., and it will bother you enough that you'll move the stove alone and feel strong, and then cry because feeling strong isn't the same as being safe." I didn't know about the spoon. I did know about the stove. I also knew he could have been guessing. He kept talking. "Your mom hides $20 bills in the blue cereal box when the rent is late. You keep the letter your father sent from Ohio in the back of a book you pretend to hate so you won't read it by accident. You lock the bathroom door even when you're alone." Reyes held up a finger. Enough. He leaned toward the coaster device, checked something, then nodded at me to end the call. I did. "Can you find him?" Mom asked, as soon as the line died. Reyes grimaced. 3 bridge nodes in the call path, last hop from a VoIP trunk in Nevada. It's something. We'll push a preservation request. But he's careful. "He knew too much," I said, throat dry. "He knows just enough," Reyes corrected, "which means he's either physically close sometimes or he has eyes that are. Cameras, people, social engineering." He tapped the pad where he'd circled more than one. "Or a network." The next day, I found the spoon. It wasn't behind the stove. It was taped to the inside of our mailbox with blue painter's tape, the kind Mom used for the baseboards that one time we believed in summer projects. The spoon was clean. I didn't tell Reyes. I don't know why. Maybe because telling meant admitting the voice had hands. I started noticing a man on our street I'd never noticed before. Not because he was remarkable, because he wasn't. Beige windbreaker, baseball cap with a faded sports logo, sneakers that looked like they went on long walks with the dog he didn't have. He waved to neighbors like he practiced the wave in a mirror. Once he knocked on our door and handed Mom a flyer for the new neighborhood watch. He said, "I'm Carter, just trying to keep an eye out for everyone." When I told Reyes, he nodded slowly. People like that live at the intersection of visibility and anonymity. It's a dangerous corner. I didn't start suspecting Carter until I heard the click. A tiny click at the end of his sentence, like a fingernail against metal. The voice on the phone made the same sound. I'd always thought it was a recording artifact, something about the bridge. Then Carter laughed at something Mrs. Bloom said about raccoons, and the click came at the end of his laugh, a little punctuation he didn't know he used. That night, I told Reyes. He didn't write anything down. "What would you need to be sure?" he asked. "A confession," I said, and tried to smile. "We can do something smaller," he said. "People like Carter want control and credit. Put him near a stage and he'll find a microphone." The plan was simple in the way a thing is simple, only for people who didn't do the living part. Our school was hosting a safety night. Online harassment, scams, the kind of PowerPoint that makes adults feel less useless and teenagers more bored. Reyes asked the principal to let the neighborhood watch share a segment. Carter would be there. So would I. I didn't want to. I did it anyway. That had become the shape of my life. Carter took the mic like he'd been waiting his whole life to hold something that made people listen. He talked about packages and porch pirates and situational awareness. He made the room laugh by telling the story about Mrs. Bloom and the raccoons, complete with the click at the end of his chuckle. The click drove into my skin like a tiny tack. Reyes nodded from the back of the auditorium. "Not yet," his eyes said. "Wait." During Q&A, I stood. My voice sounded like it had borrowed someone else's certainty. "What do you do," I asked, "if the person telling you to be safe is the reason you're not?" A little ripple went through the room. Polite discomfort. Carter smiled in the direction of discomfort like it was an old friend. "Then you find better company," he said. "What if he says he's protecting you from worse men?" I asked. He tilted his head. "Then he wants to be the only man in your life. That's not protection, that's possession." Click. After, he found me by the drinking fountain. "Good question," he said. "You've got a strong voice." The corridor was full. Reyes was 10 feet away and absolutely not watching me while completely watching me. I made my face easy. "Thanks," I said. "You live on Maple?" "Birch, 2 streets over." Click. "Do you like phones?" I asked, and I swear it was almost funny. "Love-hate," he said smoothly. "Tool and weapon. Best to keep yours on silent at night." My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown caller. I didn't have to answer to know what the voice would say. I answered anyway. "Step outside," the voice murmured. "I'm busy," I said, staring at Carter. "You're in danger," the voice said, almost impatient. "There's a man near you who pretends to be safe." I looked at Carter, looking at me, talking to the voice that was warning me about the man who might have been the voice. The world wobbled. "What do you want?" I asked both of them. "To prove I'm right," they said, one in my ear, one with his smile. Reyes stepped in then, casual as weather. "Carter," he said, like they were already friends, "can I pick your brain about porch lights?" Carter turned toward him with professional interest that almost convinced me I'd made everything up. I ended the call. The auditorium hummed with conversations that didn't matter to me. Somewhere in that hum, a decision planted itself, stubborn and small. I was done living inside men's sentences. I went home and recorded a video. Not a confessional, a tutorial. "Here's what I've learned," I said into the front camera. "If someone calls you from unknown caller and tells you what to wear, where to walk, when to breathe, that is not attention. That is control. If he warns you about other men, he wants to be the only one you listen to. Don't let him be right." I didn't post it. Not yet. Reyes had asked me to hold off. "Sometimes silence is bait," he'd said. "Sometimes the thing you're not saying does the work for you." The next day, a tech from the department came to our house. He scanned the exterior like he was reading Braille. In the gutter above my window, he found a tiny camera the size of a knuckle, lodged in a clump of leaves. "Battery-powered," he said. "Cheap, effective. Could have been anyone." Under the lip of our mailbox, he found another. Dead battery, lens smudged with pollen. The blue painter's tape had left a faint rectangle, like a ghost stamp. Reyes didn't look surprised. "He's a collector," he said. "He gathers moments and plays them later like proof that he was always there." "How do we make him leave?" Mom asked, raw. Reyes didn't lie. He said, "We don't. We make him show up where we can arrest him." The night we chose for the sting, the sky broke open and rain became a curtain everyone politely pretended not to notice. Reyes sat in an unmarked car down the street. A second team idled around the corner. I stood at my bedroom window with the shade up like a performance and the lamp on like a stage light. I wore the red hoodie I'd stopped wearing. I let my phone sit on the sill like bait. At 10:18, unknown caller lit the screen. I didn't pick up. At 10:19, it rang again. At 10:20, a text arrived. Answer when it rings. I typed, "Come do it yourself." Then I turned off the lamp and left the room. The backyard camera we'd installed that afternoon saw him first, cap low, beige windbreaker darkened by rain. He moved the way people move when they know a yard well. At the porch he paused, then reached for the window frame with a small tool that flashed silver and clicked. Click. Reyes moved before the click finished echoing in my skull. He and the second team flowed out of the dark in a choreography I will be grateful for until I am done being a person. "Police!" he shouted, and the word made the rain sound louder. Carter spun, tried to run, didn't get far. Mud loves justice. They cuffed him on the porch where my dad had once taught me how to whistle. The phone in his pocket was still unlocked. On the home screen, a small app that looked like a bell. Reyes held up the phone to the camera like the phone itself was under arrest. "Mr. Carter," he said, tone polite as a menu. "You have the right to remain silent." Carter smiled the way people do when they don't believe in rights if they're not the one granting them. "I was just checking on the girl," he said. "Neighborhood watch." The voice on my phone called again at 10:23. Reyes looked at me, I looked at him, he nodded, I answered. "I told you to answer when it rang," the voice said. "You don't listen, Emily." "I listened enough," I said, staring at Carter's face, which had started to learn what consequence looks like. "Who are you?" A pause. Then, "He isn't me." "Who is he to you?" I asked. Another pause. "A disappointment." "Are there more of you?" Silence. Then the line went dead. Ray's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then at me. "The trace on that last call is promising. Closer, not the bridge this time. We'll keep pulling." I looked at Carter and felt nothing like victory. He was a symptom. He was a man who had turned the idea of safety into a mirror and fallen in love with his reflection. He was not the voice that had moved my body through the night like a chess piece, but a door had opened. The rest would be walking. The days after Carter's arrest were strange in a way I can't fully explain. The street looked the same. The cracked sidewalks, the same trees dropping the same stubborn leaves, but the air felt heavier, like the neighborhood itself was holding a secret it didn't want to share. Everyone whispered about Carter. Some neighbors said they always knew he was off. Others swore he had helped them with groceries, shoveled their walkways, fixed their mailboxes. The contradiction made me dizzy. How could a man be both the helpful neighbor and the monster behind my phone? Reyes kept reminding me, Carter was part of it, but he wasn't the voice. The voice didn't stop. The first call came 2 nights after Carter was taken away. I was sitting in my room with Ghost, the stray dog we'd adopted after he wouldn't leave our porch during the storm, when the phone buzzed. My stomach clenched. Unknown caller. I answered. "You're stronger than I thought," the voice said, almost amused. "You took one of us off the board. Congratulations." "One of you," I repeated. My throat felt raw. "So how many are there?" He chuckled. "Enough. You think this ends because a man in a beige jacket got himself sloppy?" I gripped the phone tighter. "Why me?" "You answered," he said, as if that explained everything. Then, quieter. "And because you remind me of someone I lost." That sentence dug under my skin like a splinter. Someone he lost? Who? Why would I remind him of anyone? Reyes came the next day and set up more monitoring equipment. Cameras, new locks, a panic button that connected directly to the station. He said, "Patterns are tightening. He's slipping. Calls are coming from closer towers. He's circling. I asked the question I shouldn't have. What happens if we never find him? Reyes didn't blink. We will. But that night, when the call came again, the voice said something that made me believe Reyes was wrong. I'm closer than you think, Emily, he whispered. So close, I can almost see the fear on your face right now. I dropped the phone. My chest collapsed in on itself. I ran to the window and yanked the curtains shut. But the truth was already in my bones. He wasn't just a voice anymore. He was here. The breaking point came on a Wednesday. I'd been walking home from school with Tasha. We were laughing about something small, something stupid, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't even want to look, but my hand moved on its own. Unknown caller. I froze. Don't, Tasha warned. Please, Em, don't. But I did. Nice friend, the voice said. Shame she won't be around much longer. My blood went cold. I stopped in the middle of the sidewalk, pulling Tasha close. My voice cracked. What do you mean? The laugh on the other end was soft, almost tender. I mean, she should stop walking home with you, because your shadow is contagious. I screamed into the phone, leave her out of this, but the line went dead. That night, I couldn't breathe. My mom begged me to sleep in her room, but even her presence wasn't enough. I kept replaying his words. I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. He wanted to spread the fear to everyone near me. The next day, Tasha refused to talk to me, not out of anger, out of terror. I can't, Em, she said, shaking her head. Every time I see you, I hear his voice. I'm sorry. And just like that, I was alone. Reyes told me it was progress. He's escalating. That means he's closer to making mistakes. But to me, it felt like the opposite. It felt like he was winning. The next week, a letter appeared under our door. No stamp, no envelope, just a folded page with block letters. I'm tired of calls. Next, I knock. I don't know how I managed to keep breathing after reading those words. The night the letter came, I didn't sleep. Every creak of the house felt like a footstep. Every gust of wind through the gutters sounded like a hand on the doorknob. Mom tried to stay awake with me, but exhaustion pulled her under by 2 a.m. I sat in the living room with Ghost curled at my feet, gripping the panic button Reyes had left. At 3:11, the knock came. 3 taps. Soft. Polite. I didn't move. My body turned to stone. Ghost stiffened, his ears straight, a low growl rumbling through his chest. The knock came again, louder this time. Then the voice. Not through the phone, through the door. Emily, he whispered, I told you I'd come. I pressed the panic button. My thumb shook so badly I nearly dropped it, but the red light blinked, alive. Somewhere out there, a signal was screaming to Reyes, now, now. Go away, I shouted, my voice breaking. He chuckled softly, the same sound that had haunted my nights for weeks. Go away? After everything we've shared? Ghost barked, teeth bared. The voice hissed through the door. Quiet, mutt! Sirens split the night. The shadow at the door stiffened. I heard retreating footsteps, fast and heavy. By the time Reyes and his team swarmed the porch, the night had swallowed him whole. They found nothing but muddy footprints and a single object left on the doormat, another phone charm, shaped like a red heart. The next days blurred into interviews, safety protocols, and endless questions I didn't know how to answer. But inside me, something shifted. I was done being the hunted. I asked Reyes for the recordings, every call, every whisper. I listened to them until my ears rang with his voice. I wrote down every detail, the click, the pauses, the way he sometimes repeated my words back to me, like he was trying them on. And then it hit me. I had heard that before, not from Carter, not from the faceless crowd, but from someone closer. My father. The realization knocked the breath out of me. He had left us years ago, claiming Ohio and new beginnings. But the cadence, the way he echoed me, the faint Midwestern lilt that bled through when he was tired, it was him. I wanted to be wrong. God, I wanted to be wrong. But the more I listened, the more the truth became undeniable. When I told Reyes, he didn't look surprised, only sad. We'd considered it, he admitted, but we didn't want to put it in your head unless we had proof. Proof came faster than either of us expected. 2 nights later, a call slipped. Instead of unknown caller, the screen showed a number. Local. A prepaid cell, registered under a name I hadn't spoken in years. Daniel Harper. My father. The arrest happened in silence. Reyes wanted me nowhere near it, but I begged to come. Not to the door, not to the confrontation, but to see him in cuffs. When they led him out of the dingy motel room, he looked smaller than I remembered. His hair was grayer, his shoulders slumped, but when his eyes met mine, he smiled. As promised, he said softly, I knocked. I think I hated him more for that smile than for every call. The trial was long and brutal. He tried to argue that he had been protecting me, that he had warned me of others, that he was keeping me close. But the recordings told a different story. Obsession, manipulation, terror. When it was my turn to speak, I stood in front of the court and said, my father's voice used to sing me lullabies. Then it stalked me through a phone. He thought he owned my fear, but fear isn't ownership. Fear is fuel. And I'm still here. The courtroom was silent. Even he looked away. The jury found him guilty, multiple counts, stalking, harassment, attempted abduction. He would be gone for decades. Now when I tell this story, people ask me why I kept answering, why I didn't smash the phone, burn it, run. The truth is complicated. When someone steals your safety, sometimes you cling to the very thing that hurts you because it's the only proof you're not imagining it. But I'm not that girl anymore. I'm the girl who survived the calls. I'm the girl who turned fear into testimony. I'm the girl who can hold a phone again without shaking. Sometimes when my phone rings late at night, my chest still tightens. But then Ghost nudges me and I remember, I'm safe. He's gone. His voice is just a ghost and I have louder voices now. My own, my mom's laughter, Tasha slowly coming back into my life. The nightmare didn't end in one moment. It ended because I decided to end it, because I chose not to let a voice dictate who I was anymore. So if you ever get a call from unknown caller, and a voice tries to own your silence, remember this: you're not alone. Fear doesn't get the last word. You do.